Testing, 1, 2, 3. Okay, well, hello. Welcome to the ridiculously early J morning show. Wait. Oh, okay. For a moment there, it said the bitrate was 0, so I was afraid I was not streaming, but it appears I am streaming. Nobody's here yet. I gave extremely short notice for this video, but I think that I am now being listed in the Twitch channels, so maybe someone will show up. But if not, I'm going to record this for posterity. Basically, my thought was I'm working on my code anyway. Oh, hello. We got 4 people everywhere. Hello, Wapix. I'm working on code anyway, so I might as well just film it. So I can do an hour a day. And it's a weird language. Jay might find some new enthusiasts and people who are interested in J might be able to. Oh, hey, Amadiro. Might be able to learn, get your J questions answered. Anyway, so let's see. I am going to. So I've got some links on the screen here. These are just the repositories that I'm working with. How do I turn this off? Get rid of the logo there. And maybe I'll move these up to the top or something. Is there a Dever? Yeah, so J is open source. If you go to this link right here, which I will just bring up, you can go to jsoftware.com, and it has the system itself is open source. It comes with 2 different IDEs. One is a web-based thing called JHS. I forget what J something server, and the hypertext server maybe. And then there's a JQT, which is a Qt binding. It gives you a nice little IDE with. I'll pull it up on the screen here. It gives you that's the repl. So you can say I10. That's your integers, and then if you hit Control. Yeah, there you go. You have editor. You can pull up your code and step through it and whatnot. And this comes with a nice little GUI framework. And I've made some videos about that on my YouTube channel. Oh, which I guess I should probably also link in my list of links, which is youtube.com/c/tangentstorm. Tangentstorm. Where I've got some videos about it, making GUI stuff in J. And I'm going to go ahead and put this on that link, if it'll let me. Thanks. 1 second. And maybe make that solid so it's not. Oh, that's weird. It says it's 100% opacity, but that is definitely. No, it's not. Okay. There we go. Okay. Maybe that'll work. Yeah, it says that's 100% opacity. Oh, okay. There's a lag between when I do something when it shows up on the stream. So yeah, so the question was, is there an open source environment for J? And there is, jsoftware.com. You can click there to get download. You can also run it on Android, which is kind of nice. Like you can actually develop code on Android. So I've done a bunch of videos in here. What am I looking at here? Oh, this is part of my my old presentation tool that I am currently in the process of replacing. This is JavaScript code, actually. So I guess it would make more sense to show some J code. So yeah. So J comes with this editor, and there's also a web-based editor in the web tool, but I am making, it also comes with a console application called JConsole, which in Windows, that's kind of loud, looks like this. not so pretty, and it does have basic, like, keyboard commands to move back and forth and whatnot. But I think we could do a whole lot better. I've been inspired by IPython that comes with. Let's see, if you've never seen it. IPython is a command that you can get for Python. It's part of the Jupyter Notebook series, but you've got this nice colored REPL, so you can say, x for x in range 10. Well, that's kind of silly, but x plus 1 for x in range 10 or whatever. And so, you get colored output. You can do some nice little things like, I think there's a way to, like if you just type x or say, yeah, there you go. If you type x or something, you can tab complete and you can get all this kind of, file names and things that are in your Python environment, and you can navigate through these and pick this. Eventually I want to make something like this for J. So I'm starting with a very simple REPL. If I can find my code here. So I'll show you where I'm at right now. Source for the J console and IDR also on GitHub. Yeah, everything here is you just saw is open source. Everything that that I'm doing is open source. So all of this is open source. I'm sorry, I'm not even going to try to pronounce your name there. That's a lot of vowels. So here's what I've got so far. Well, I've got two things. So here, first I've got. I make videos about J usually. I'm new to live streaming, but I've made videos before, which that's what the channel's about. I'm gonna move this somewhere. Can I just hide this for now? And I'll hide myself for just a second here, so I can show this off. So this is the script of a video that I'm working on. These are like on the left here. These are headings. On the right, these are like statements I want to say inside. It's the screenplay of this video. So let me zoom out here. Start over and get the screen looking nice. So I can page through this kind of outline aspect of it, and then I can step through this. And as I step through, you can see it's making things in this REPL. I can actually edit these lines here. Hopefully they work. I don't have a lot. I don't have all my keyboard shortcuts here, but so if I change that to I33, then hopefully that's going to update there. And then if I hit next, well, it didn't actually run it, but there you go. It's showing the old one. But the intent is that this actually saves the script, but it's not updating this REPL up here. But anyway, this is what I've got so far. This is what happens is it reads the entire screenplay, and then it executes every one of these lines here, and it makes a history of it. And then you can page through what happened. So you kind of have like this time-traveling REPL here. And then eventually this area on the left is meant to be the text editor. And so if at some point I move from working in the REPL and inside this video to editing code that is persistent in the editor, and so that would be over here. And then the intent is that this editor would be live on the screen, and I want to be able to record my interactions with the editor so that I can strip out all the typos and whatnot before I publish or before I record, and then I can just talk while I'm presenting, or while the macros are playing, basically. So that's that part of it. And now I'm working on making the actual REPL to be interactive. So let me unzoom that. Come over here. Oops. Sorry. So I'll slow this down. So edit. Oops. This is kind of where I left off in my last prototype stream here. So this is the first official episode of the ridiculously early J morning show. But I did a stream over the weekend to just as a practice, just to try it out. And so this is where I've landed here. And of course, I've been working on this for weeks at a time before that. So anyway, where I'm at now, it's playing back a macro here, and it's recording it's replaying the recording of this macro. The macro looks like this. It's kind of meant to be inspired by the shortcuts that Vim uses. So here we start. We're saying like you're opening this file or whatever. This is a one-line editor at the moment. So this is the line you're editing. Then this is here. I'm going to turn my camera back on. Oops. So then the intent is that this $ takes you to the end of the line. Press backspace a bunch of times. Not backspace, but the X key, the uppercase X deletes the character. The question mark is what I'm using to go into and out of insert mode. So Vim is a modal editor, and you type I to go, or there's several keys you can use to trigger the editor. I'm just using the question mark. That's not actually what Vim uses. But so then now you're in insert mode, and then these keys are not treated as as cursor commands or anything. They're treated as insert text into the editor. And then normally in Vim you press escape, and so I'm using the question mark as the escape key because I looked at all the J characters, and like J, the question mark is probably the one I use the least. J for those of you who don't know what J is, we can go here, but J, this is the dictionary for J. That's called a new vocabulary on the wiki. And you can see that every single character on your keyboard has some meaning in J. The ASCII, the letters and numbers, numbers mean numbers, letters are used for names, but every single punctuation character has some special meaning to it, as do letters with dots and colons and whatnot after them. So it's there isn't a free escape character in the J language that I can use in the macro language. So I needed something to escape from. I wanted something. I wanted the macro language that I use for recording the macros and the J language that I'm actually typing to not conflict with each other, or to conflict as little as possible. And so in J, the question mark gives you like a random number, and so I figured that was probably the one I use least. So anyway, so it types hello world, and then it's going to hit go back an entire word and land right there after the O, and or it's going to land on that space there, and then it's going to insert the comma, and then it goes to the end of the line. So that's what should happen in this animation, and that looks like what it did happen. But I'll play it back. So there we go. We're deleting the characters, and we're typing hello world, and then jump back, and then there we go. You might have saw there's a green cursor underneath, so the green cursor is the real cursor. And then the kind of gold-looking cursor is is a fake cursor that I'm rendering on the screen here. How am I going to insert the question mark? Okay, so yeah, it's a state machine. How do you insert the question mark into J code? The short answer is you just do double question marks. But I'll show you the code for what I've got here so far, because it is actually what we're working on today, or what I'll be working on today, or we, I guess, if you guys want to chip in with suggestions and stuff. I actually had some pretty good suggestions in the demo stream here. So here's what we got. So this is the macro code execution engine. Right now, so there's a single global variable called not global variable, a variable, a member variable of the editor object called mode, and it's one of these three characters. It's either N for navigate, so you're in navigation mode. I for insert, it's a character. So I for the insert mode where you're typing characters, and then Q is the quote mode. And then so let's put this back here. So we've got like a loop. Oh, it was a while loop. Probably is going to be a while loop again. So I defined the loop counter I. And then I set this to Q. So the idea is that we can change this if we want. The way it's working right now, so my framework has an event loop, and it can render widgets to the screen, but this animation is not running inside the event loop yet. So it's just, the event loop is frozen, and it's gonna do this loop, and it's blocking everything else while it plays the animation. So it loops through the character. You pass in the string that looks like this this macro or whatever macro you want. You can actually record macros from the editor. Waking the baby up. I have some milky for her if she if she wakes up and starts crying. I'll try to talk not so loud. So anyway, so we loop through the characters in that, and we just execute them one at a time, just as if you were typing them in the keyboard. So this is how you make a for loop. This tells you what the loop variable is. So it's kind of weird. You have a single J token that includes both the fact that it's a for loop and the index variable. This is the array you're looping through. So this defines a the double curly braces starts a definition. In this case, we're defining a verb, or what you would call a function in most languages. And then the implicit argument, the verbs in J always take one or two arguments. They're called x and y, so x goes on the left, y goes on the right. If you only use one of them, it's called a monadic function or a monad. We had the name before, J had the name long before Haskell had it, although that name goes back hundreds of years. But we use the word monad for a word that a verb that takes one argument. So its argument is called y, and then in that case, this case it's the string, the macro string. So for every character in that string, the for loop defines this, but I don't like typing that all the time, so I just call it I. This is an assignment, and then now we do a switch statement. So a select lets us do these three different cases. We're selecting based on the current mode. A case statement in J, when you say case, it does not fall through, but when you say F case, it falls through to the next one. So this one, so if we're in quotation mode, we can either, so if we are in insert mode and then we see a question mark, that puts us in quotation mode. So if we're in quotation mode and we see the quotation character, then we switch to insert mode, and we actually insert that character, right? So we're inserting the question mark here. So this is the answer to your question. How do you put that question mark in there? And then we escape because we don't want to fall through, so we can continue to the next step of the loop. Otherwise, if it's not two question marks in a row, then now we're exiting the insert mode, and so now we're back in navigation mode, and we want to actually execute that character. And so these are the characters that I have defined. The editor itself has a bunch of keys that it respects, and it's a little weird because I'm used to using Emacs, so I have all the keys bound to Emacs characters, but I wanted the language to be like Vim, because Vim is a very nice language for editing text, right? It's a language that gets executed one character at a time. Yes, so he's. I'm going to call you Hitti if that's okay, because Hitti Arevvareva. That's I'm going to call you Hitti if you don't mind. He says that, or they say that code looks so much better with the new curly brace syntax. Yes, absolutely. It used to be the case that you had to use, you would say like verb define, which is no big deal. And then otherwise it was pretty much like this, except you had this at the end. Hitties. It's okay. My name is Michael without an E, and I always get people misspelling it, or mispronouncing it or misspelling it. Although now I have like there are actually 6 people at work with that exact same name, Michael without an E. Anyway, but so this was kind of annoying, but I mean this was not very annoying. But what was annoying was when you said some verb is equal to 3 verb is the word for 3. So you would say this, and then you would put your code in a string, and it wouldn't get syntax highlighted. And then even worse, if you had to put a string inside of that, you had to put double strings. So it very much encouraged people to use the tacit style of programming in J, where you just put symbols and you compose your verbs together by juxtaposition and composing them into these higher order things called forks and trains and whatnot. Yeah. But this new syntax came out in J902, I believe. So actually, somewhere in the middle of J902, there were a bunch of releases. So if you grab the latest version of J, you'll have this nice new syntax, and I agree, it is much nicer. Anyway, you can also define nouns and adverbs and conjunctions. Adverbs and conjunctions are like higher order verbs, and you can do all of that with this nice syntax. And I agree. It's just a much nicer way to do it. It's actually so new that I don't have syntax highlighting for it in my editor, but I have it in the editor I'm writing. So I'm ahead of the curve here. All right. Anyway, let's see. So yeah, so these are the commands that I've made so far in the macro player. Move backwards by a whole word, backward by one character, go to the end of the line, go backspace, and then if we're in insert mode, we actually insert the character. Except if it's a queue, then we go into quotation mode. And that's it. And then right now, like I said, this is not hooked up to the event loop, so we're actually out of the event loop. So I am on every one of these characters as they're interpreted. I have it sleep for some number of seconds, which every time I change the speed, I just go in here and change this. Here I am actually using a random number just to. I was experimenting with trying to make it a little bit more lifelike, so it didn't look like a machine was typing the characters. So that was what I did. So it's adding 20 milliseconds, or it's adding some number of random milliseconds between 0 and 19 milliseconds to each key press, or between each key press. I'm not sure that it actually made a difference, but because it goes by so fast. But that was the intent. And then refresh is this function here, which is just explicitly rendering this widget to the screen, which is not the way I want to do things. The way render works is this is so working. J executes right to left on each line. So if you want to have multiple things on a line, you put this little identity function in between them. So this says set the foreground, set the background to some registers that are local to all the widgets, or at least to this widget. Clear the screen, put the buffer on the screen as a string, and then render the cursor. And then so what I did, that's the normal editor. And then what I did yesterday, and then restore the thing, because the cursor is going to be screwing up the colors, and the cursor just goes to a particular position and draws the thing. So I try to make it so every widget believes it exists at 0, 0. Why not record the timestamps deltas? Yes, I just haven't gotten to it, and that is actually the plan for today. So we're going to do that today. We're going to record the timestamps. Although the problem is when you record the times, it's a little trickier than that. So yes, I want to record the timestamps, but when I play it back, I don't want my macro to be, like full of giant numbers everywhere. Like that. It's just going to be ugly to make it show up, because I kind of want to be able to type these macros by hand. So the ridiculous plan that I've come up with, and I don't know, it's kind of not ridiculous. I kind of like it. So ABC notation is this. I haven't actually looked at this, but I believe this does what I want. Is a notation for music, and it has the ability to, to indicate what the tempo. Obviously, you have to record the tempo. So in addition to the notes, you tell it how fast it is and how slow it is. So I thought I would look this up and figure out. I kind of want to reference this. I don't want a video, right? I thought I would look at how it did it and kind of borrow that idea and see. Yeah, here we go. Tempo. Yeah, I thought I would kind of try and use this notation, or something like this notation, to indicate like, okay, I'm typing this word pretty fast, but then I pause and think for a minute. It doesn't have to be exact, you know. So yeah, obviously music notation is very complicated because you've got like, you know, volume, and I don't need any of that. But I thought I would take the idea of timing from this thing. Although, to be honest, I haven't actually studied it, so I might wind up just making my own. But I think what they do is they make like numbers that indicate, you know, like, no, maybe not. I actually don't know what they're doing. So I'm taking inspiration from something that I've never actually looked at, or looked at many years ago. But that's the point. Is that I want the macros to kind of have some idea of speed, but it doesn't have to be exact. Yeah, so I'll spend a byte on it. My thought, well, the idea is that you tell it like what the default tempo is. So like if every character is a 16th note, then that's just how it is, and then I'll probably have that randomness in there. So there's a play, you know, and then when I want to pause, like, you know, your typing speed doesn't normally change. Once you know what you want to type, you hit the keys, and that's your speed. So your typing speed is kind of constant. So that's the tempo. But as you're typing, you might pause and think, or you might, you know, like pause because the narrative, you know, the audio that goes with the conversation needs to have a break, right? Like, you know, you're pausing between things, or you have a long sentence and you want to stop typing while you complete the sentence talking about the first thing, and then after a few seconds, then you're going to move the cursor and do something else. So all of that I want to record with pauses. So really, I think mostly it's going to come down to there's a base typing speed. I'm going to have the randomness in there, and I want to put pauses in there. And maybe pauses are the only thing I need to really care about. Like maybe there's just a wait verb, like a sleep verb inside the macro code. And and then as I record, so let's look at what the recording does right now. So we have this thing called log. A colon, can you see this? Yes. A colon and J is an empty box. So a box is like you could keep a running histogram of typing speed and use that to bucket individual keystrokes. Yeah. Well, let's just do this. Okay. So first of all, so if I type, the editor is called ed, and then this is a reference to object in namespace 1, right? And so if I type log of ed, I should get, oh, okay, so it did not log anything. So it's not logging anything while it does the macros, which is probably good. I think you'll want a length modifier on each action, otherwise you'll end up keeping spamming pauses everywhere all the time. Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Like, we don't need, I think it doesn't, like, I am always going to play the macro back at the, you know, like I can't type 9,000 words a minute. The computer can, right? So the computer could render like the entire thing in an instant. So I'm always going to slow it down to a base typing speed that is either my own typing speed or just something that looks like it might be a real person's typing speed. So I want it to look natural. And then I'm always going to continue to add that variation into the a random variation into that, because that's just, that's a little bit more natural, and it kind of simulates the, it's not going to accurately simulate the distance between the keys and how the differences in your finger lengths and that kind of thing, but it looks good enough that I think it, it's good enough for the screen. It's really, now that I say this out loud, I think what I really care about is just the longer pauses. So I think what we'll do is just anytime there's anytime the lag between two keystrokes is longer than some threshold, then we'll try and try and quantize that threshold to a multiple of the of the normal delay, and yeah, and so we'll only have the pauses in there, and they'll only be there when the pause is long enough. And I still think that, like, I really don't want to be sitting there typing. Like, if I give myself the ability to go in and edit those pause lengths and say that this one is 921 milliseconds and this one is 7.3 milliseconds, that's ridiculous. But I will wind up doing that. So I don't want that. I want to I want to think of it more like music, and just record, like, okay, here's a quarter note pause, here's a half note pause, or whatever. I don't know what a measure is in this sense, but there'll be like maybe some set of exponential bins, and then again a little bit of variation within those bins. So that's the plan. So okay, so hang on a second. So the way this works right now, this is kind of like a throwaway script that is exercising this thing. So I should mention that to get syntax highlighting, I overrode this rendering method so that it's still basically, I replaced the line that said put SB. I replaced this line, and in between there, I actually load this other token editor thing that I made, and I render that token editor. And the token editor knows how to tokenize or it knows how to colorize the code. So that's what's happening there. So basically, as you press every key, it re-renders the buffer, or it updates the buffer, and we just re-tokenize and re-render that line. Probably not efficient, but it works good enough for now. Anyway, so here's my macro. Here's initializing the editor. I probably actually don't need this now. I was using the token editor as the main interface, and then that doesn't make any sense anymore. Sets the debugger on. We don't need that anymore. Okay, so basically, this program, what it does is it plays that macro. It sets up the objects. It plays that macro, and then it goes into the main loop and triggers my little application framework, which is still in progress. That is, show my links again. Oops, sorry. That's j-kvm. Yeah, I could have just gone to the thing, right? j-kvm. So tangent storm /j-kvm on GitHub has all of this. This is the terminal library. I guess I'm actually on the working branch, so work, and it can render buffers to the screen. It can render all kinds of color text and all that, and it has the notion of both dealing with the console character codes. That's what VT is. Talking to the Windows console, and also talking to the Unix console or the Linux console to get keystroke information. So that's all in there. So that's kind of like a base terminal library. And then on top of that, we've got VM is called ViewMat. ViewMat is a thing that comes with J that renders all these nice, pretty, visualize your matrix in colors. So that's what VM does. And then vid is the idea of a video buffer, where instead of just rendering these codes, you have a kind of a, I guess, a three-dimensional array or three two-dimensional arrays, each of them the size of the screen, where one of them contains all the characters on the screen, one of them contains all the foreground colors, one of them contains all the background colors, and then you can manipulate those three things in memory, and then combine them all together to compose your screen. So that's how the widget system works. And then under, again, I'm not on the right directory. So in the work branch, there's this UI system which has all these widgets. So we've got the app, not really a widget, but the app is a container for widgets, and I've got a list widget, which is what you saw earlier, where I had the text and I was navigating up and down. So I had two list widgets. I'll just show it again. CDB4J, JMKE, JS. Yeah, so this is a list widget. This is a list widget. This is the edit widget as it stands now, and then these are just kind of like things that are becoming widgets over time. So the repl history and the what will become the editor. This is kind of faked at the moment. It's just drawing stuff to the screen. Anyway, that's how the framework works, and I'm not going to talk too much about this here. I did a 5-hour stream on Saturday that covers this in like great detail, and it's already 8:37, so I kind of want to get something done today. So let's yeah, let's jump in. So right now, let me just finish my thought here. So the idea is that this current program plays the macro, so it transforms this text into this text, and then now it switches over to live mode. So if I echo this, or if I repeat the same string here, this is gonna, so app is the name of a variable that I've defined right here. So it says app. This is the Z locale. It's kind of making it global. There's a namespace called Z that's kind of global to everything. So this puts it in the Z locale, basically so that I can be a bad citizen and refer to global variables, right? So it's a hack right now, but really it's called app, right? So so app is a container that contains this one editor widget, and it is a UI app, which is defined over there in that j-kvm directory, which I'm importing up here at the top. And then, so what this does, KVM also provides this kind of like loop, the event framework, right? So what it's going to do is it's going to go into an infinite loop, and then it inspects the the right argument tells you where do you look for keyboard commands, where do you look for, so on every key press it's going to try and run a verb, it's going to try and run a function, and so you have to define, what does the A key do and what does the B key do, and so that's defined in some namespace, and of course as you switch between widgets you want different widgets to handle different things. So eventually that is going to be handled by the concept of a focus in the application, but in the meantime we're just looking at the the editor here is defining the verbs that handle the key presses, and then in between that, on every tick of the loop, we call render on this application. So this is like app.render in like Python or J or something like that, right? So this is a loop that calls this repeatedly, and then what render does is each widget has a flag on it that says, am I visible? And then another flag that says, am I do I need a refresh? And if I'm both visible and need a refresh, then the application, the render in the app will update it. So that's it. That's what's happening here. So if I run this program, then it's going to do its animation. All right. So now now we're on this line. We're inside this loop, and I have the ability to now go in here and say, okay, I can put it back to what it was, right? I can say IY at rank 0, of 5. So actually what this would do is, so I dot counts from 0 to the number, and then this is actually kind of silly. It really should be I5, right? So the intent was this was just a demo piece of code, right? But so what this line would do, just for those of you who don't know J, this should give you a 5x5 array where the first one is it just counts to 0, the second one counts to 1, the third line, and so on. So let's actually run it, just so you know what we're. Here you go. So that's it. and really you could, it's a completely silly line, right? It's just, there you go. You don't need to wrap that in a function, right? You can just, as I said, compose the verbs together by themselves. Anyway, this is not meant to be a J tutorial. The point I was making, though, is that now, since I did all that editing, now it recorded on each key press what I did. So that's the, let's see. So I had 93 key presses, and that's what each of them were. The way this works is, these are the. Oh yeah, so I didn't actually press L. Again, I'm using Emacs key bindings, and then it records the Vim key bindings, which I will rectify as soon as I learn to start doing Vim. But this is how that works. So the event loop is saying, Control D or whatever is delete, and then I'm also logging the X key. This is like a composition operator. So here, it's composing these two functions, the EOL with the log and the argument, and it's also binding this argument to the function. So they all work by that. As the application framework knows to look for verbs like this, to look for definitions like this, where this says, the K is keyboard, the C means control character, and then B is, so this is like the handler for control B. So when I press control B, it goes back, because that's the Emacs key for going backward, for moving backwards, but the Vim key is H, and so I'm recording an H. Clear as mud? All right. Hello, everybody. I see we have 6 people in here, so welcome. All right. So in the 15 minutes that we have left, let's go ahead and update this log function. So log is writing. That doesn't need to be there. That is now part of the object itself. So all log does is it says, okay, whatever we tell it to log, we're gonna log it. So now let's put some timestamps on there. So let's make another one for timestamps. These are all going to be numbers, so we don't need boxes. The reason for these are boxes is they're box strings, and that's because I did a very silly thing that when you insert a character, where is it? So when the default ASCII key handler, like printable ASCII handler, is to record it as go into insert mode, insert that character, and leave insert mode, which is kind of clunky, but it works. And then there's actually a verb that there's a method here that get log, right, that shrinks that and removes the redundant parentheses. So this right here is the log of what I typed to transform, the hello world string to this function, and then it looks like a bunch of redundant moving back and forth, a cursor moving. Oh, and then I put that. Yeah. So. Okay. So when we do this logging, I think in the log function itself, I'm going to record the timestamp. So I've got to figure out how to get J to tell me timestamp, and then I'm going to up here I'm going to have maybe TS as timestamp. How long LTS? I don't know. Maybe how about klog and tlog for times? How about log K? I don't know. Let's just put call time. Timestamps for the log, and we don't need boxes. We're just gonna have numbers here. So I do not know how to get the timestamp, but I know that Jay has it. It's going to be a foreign word, so I have this bookmarked as part of the dictionary, and I'm just going to search for time. There's probably like a name that tells me what the current time is, but number of seconds since Jay started running. I don't need the exact time, so this is fine. So this is this kind of an ugly page. I think the old one was a little nicer for this, but this is what I bookmarked. So so 6. I'm not showing off the best part of J here. So 6 colon 6 exclamation point colon and then 1 should give me the current time. Yes, so that's my time. So now is right, and if I come here. I say it's not the prettiest part of J, but it's with the exception of the keywords for control flow, J, which were kind of added in later. J is a language like a spoken. It's neutral to spoken languages, right? So there's no. Everything is symbolic, and it's just as weird looking to someone who speaks Chinese or any other language, Spanish, whatever, as somebody who speaks English. It's not English centric, except for the explicit control words and some of the mnemonics. Yes, they like I is short for integers or something like that, I think, or iota, which is I guess is Greek. But anyway, for whatever reason, that's how you define foreign. You can register like your own libraries and stuff in there, and so these are the foreign words. So exclamation point colon is the foreign word operator. Anyway, let's see. Sorry. Got 3 different clipboards here from Emacs and Tmux and the native. Sometimes I get it wrong. All right, so we're gonna just record. We're just gonna record 2 things. So was it time is equal to, or I like TS for timestamp. A it's shorter, and B it's more descriptive than what the time. It's not just time; it's timestamps. Okay, so I'm going to call this TS. This is a shape. So $sign means shape. So if you say 5 shape 0, you get 5 zeros. If you say 0 shape 0, you get an empty array, but it just happens to be it's an empty array of numbers as opposed to an empty array of strings. Although to be fair, it doesn't really matter because you can append something to it. But you can't append when you have one. You can't append a number to a string unless you use boxes. But anyway, just for this, I just do this for kind of clarity. Although I guess the difference is that if this is nothing, but if you take the first item, you still get a default thing. So that's the difference between an array of boxes. This is an array of numbers. This is an empty array of boxes, an empty array of strings, an empty array of boxes. Well, an empty array of numbers gives you a 0 when you take the first item. An empty array of strings gives you an empty string or a blank string or something like that, a space character maybe. And an empty array of boxes gives you a box when you ask for the first thing. So there is a difference between them, and the editor likes. I just tend to use. I'm spending way too much time on this, but yeah, that's what this is all about. So that's an empty array of numbers, and I believe that's done. So if I just run this now, let me turn that off. Let me set that speed to something higher so we don't have to sit through that every time. Come on. Wow. All right, sorry about that. There we go. All right, so now I'm in edit mode. I don't think I can delete entire words yet. There we go. And so now my log of ed is that, and my TS of ed is all these timestamps. Okay. So now if I wanted to take these two timestamps two at a time, I can use this. Oops, I cannot use that. How about this? And that gives me a just a ABC, ABCD, right? That's giving me two at a time. And you can see that you know it's AB and then the B is repeated down here. So this is really giving me the it's giving me a sliding window, right? So and if you don't want that, you can use a negative number, but and you get a discrete window. But I want a sliding window between all of my timestamps, and I want to now instead of so this is an identity function. So I'm saying for each one of those, just return the two items, right? Passing it to the identity function. But if instead I say subtract, I will get the sorry. That turns each one of them negative. If I say subtract by putting the subtraction sign between them, so this is insert. Now I have one. Let's make it vertical. So that is going to give me the distance between all of them. And of course, I actually want it backwards. So I want to switch the arguments because I want to take I want a positive number. Sorry, positive number. Yeah, so this is saying this is subtraction, so reflexive subtraction inserted between each between the items of each two-item window, and then count it out. So. Probably, I think it makes sense to now like multiply this by something. So I don't know. Let's call this. So we'll just call it S for scale. I don't know what the scaling factor. So S equals 10, and BS is scaling factor, and we'll call this S times 2. All right. So now we have. I'm going to make it even 100. So. Let's see, this is saying the number of seconds, and we're getting a decimal point, so this would be hundredths of a second, right? Which I think is probably a reasonable quantization for the time. So, and then now we can round it. I'll just take the floor of that. So those are my. That's the timing of the keystrokes. So I guess so it looks like we have a bunch of one-digit numbers. I mean, I was thinking about setting up some bins for this. Maybe the answer is just like. Maybe we could just take the logarithm, right? Like the base 10 log, which is 10 like that, right? Before we do it. How about the base? It could be any logarithm, right? So we just an arbitrary logarithm. Something that gives us like a wide variety of, 2? 2 is too small. 2 is too much variety. I'm just looking for something that's giving me like, you know, not too many buckets, right? So now it's 5. That gives us 3 buckets. So we got 0, 1, and 2, right? Here, it's 0, 1, and 2, and we can show the unique items, right? 0, 1, and 2. So that gives me like that's a good way for now, I think. So we'll take the logarithm. So okay. I think really this is the scaling factor. Like this is the interesting factor. The scaling factor is just milliseconds, right? So we don't care about that. We don't need it. We don't need a variable for that. That's a perfectly reasonable constant to have. And then, but yeah, we do want S equals 5. Really, it's more like a quantization factor. Let's call it a Q. Quantization factor, right? that make any sense at all? I lost a lot of people. I wonder if I lost them all when I started typing all these weird characters. Hey, this is Jay. Okay. So this is... I guess probably we want something out of like get log. We probably want the same thing from get time. Get times. And this is going to be part of the thing of the really we so okay. I'm thinking we could make this an argument. So I'll just leave this for now. Probably we might want to play with this later, but yeah, I'll just do that. All right. So so I can say Coke. I can add this live. I can just do it like this. Get times ed is equal to, and oops, try again. And so now if I say get times of ed, I should get that same numbers back. Yeah. Okay. All right. So we've got quantized time. Let's make. We've added timing information to the macros. And then the next thing I need to do is to play these back. Well, okay, I can probably do this real. Okay, well, I don't have time left before the stream is over to record a macro with these times and get it all set up in the thing to play it back. But oops, sorry. Right now, to make this play at that speed, I would need to pass in not just the well, I guess the idea is that I want to blend these into the macro itself. How these things get encoded in the macro itself, and then this loop would change this number right here based on those commands, and so it would have to be time aware. So that is one thing I need to do. So handle encode timing in the macros itself. I guess that's kind of what this said. What I really did here is record and quantize the timestamps, keystroke timestamps. So what I need to do now is figure out how to encode timing in the macros, and then change the speed of the player. So, okay, change speed of player. Speed of player based on timing info, timing macros, timestamp, whatever, and then the next thing, once I get that done, then it'll all be all about breaking this out of that while loop here, or this for loop here, and making this something that happens asynchronously as the application is running. So thanks everybody for visiting, and please come back tomorrow. I enjoyed this. I hope you enjoyed this, and I will upload these to YouTube. And that was it. That was the inaugural episode of the Ridiculously Early J Morning Show. Thank you very much.